Welcome to First. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Mark Eichman. Shirley Min is off this week.
This week, the story of a long-forgotten corner of the Delaware State Hospital is getting some recognition.
Everything is in a name. That's the beginning of my identity.
Learn who the graves belong to and who found them.
What do you know about your finances? After this week's stock market news, you may think not much, but the Delaware Money School can provide some support.
And Delaware's longtime poet laureate E. Jean Lanyon shows us her art, and we listen to some of her works.
First, your public media news magazine starts now.
42 million Americans suffer from a mental illness, according to a 2014 study by the U.S. Substance and Mental Health Administration. And while there's been some progress on how those with mental health problems are treated, there's still a stigma. This week's First Look visits a Delaware cemetery that shows a picture of how that stigma is changing. Hidden away and long forgotten, deep inside the Delaware Health and Social Services campus near Newcastle is a spiral cemetery filled with gravestones. Graves marked with just numbers, no names, just a circle of numbered stones. From 1891 to 1983, this was the final resting place for more than 700 former patients and a few workers at the Delaware State Hospital. The hospital served patients with mental illness, as well as those with developmental disabilities and other ailments.
The people who are buried here were formerly patients of the hospital who, when they died, either had no family or their family had no means to bury them.
Faith Kuhn spearheaded the effort to clean up the cemetery and make it more accessible. That meant ripping out the hedgerows seen in the background of these photos.
What you see today is a tremendous improvement over what it was in 2010.
It's come a long way. Back when I first started here, we had hedgerow, poison ivy growing up all around the area here, and it was not even noticeable from the street.
John McDermott has worked at the DHSS campus for more than 30 years.
So we come in and we had our crew and some contractors take it all down and clean it up. We've raised the trees here a little bit so you can see some of the stones. So we've come a long way with it.
Now that the cemetery is visible, there are more visitors.
We have people that come here and visit, and we also have people from the campus that like to walk, and they'll come up here now because they see it.
But even seeing it doesn't provide any information about the lives buried below, not even a name.
The name of the person was recorded in a cemetery book, and the cemetery book for this cemetery resides in the Delaware State Archives.
Everything is in a name. That's the beginning of my identity. I'm not just some person who has a mental health diagnosis. I am Bryce. This is me.
Bryce Hewlett leads the Delaware Consumer Recovery Coalition, a group dedicated to improving community inclusion for those recovering from mental illnesses.
Just being able to put the names of the people who have passed away and are now buried here in a place that's recognizable is very significant to bring dignity to the people buried here.
We believe that this is a very important statement that people who lived with mental illness and who suffered under the stigma of mental illness, this is in honor of them.
His legal team declared Holmes mentally ill, laying the base for an insanity defense.
It saddens me sometimes that the only time mental health gets attention in the news is when there's some major tragedy. But the statistics show that people with mental health diagnoses are far less likely to be perpetrators of violence than they are to be victims of violence.
Next year, a monument listing all the names of those buried will be placed on the edge of the cemetery. That monument will be sculpted in part by those recovering from mental illness.
It'll be a well-built structure by the folks at the Creative Vision Factory who have a lot of experience in creating monuments like this. This will be something that many of us in our community can always point to and say, you're not forgotten.
In addition to the monument, there are also plans for a historical marker at the site.
There are 2 Civil War veterans buried here. One was a patient in the hospital and one was an employee. There's also a veteran of the Spanish-American War buried here.
There is a second Pottersfield Cemetery also on the campus where indigent Delawareans who don't have any family to provide for a burial are placed. A monument in their memory was erected at that cemetery last year. The monument at the Spiral Cemetery is scheduled to be unveiled next spring. There's also plans for a historical marker that will provide detail on the history of both the cemetery as well as the Delaware State Hospital. That history is also being compiled into a document that's being prepared by a professor of anthropology at the University of Delaware.
Well, tell me this. So before the monument is in place, how do people find out who's buried at the cemetery?
Well, they can find out online at findagrave.com. Just a handful of the graves at the cemetery were adorned with flowers, so some friends, maybe family, had been able to find those locations of a cemetery of their loved one. The group is still looking for sponsors to donate to their effort, and anyone interested can find more information at delawarerecovery.org.
Thanks, Mark. You can find more details and links to the cemetery restoration effort online at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Coming up on First, Dover is the football capital of Delaware. Wesley University gets ready for another season, one with several highlights in store. And the poetry of E. Jean Lanyon is our first experience.
Centennial of freedom.
You may be paying extra attention to your investments following Wall Street's recent wild ride. The team at the Delaware Financial Literacy Institute would probably advise you not to wait until stocks tumble to pay attention to your finances. First, visited the nonprofit organization, which offers free classes to Delaware residents to learn more about the courses.
Money, no doubt about it. It's a necessity. But some people seem to be better at making it and holding on to it.
If you ask most people today why you're working, and a 95% answer is got to pay my bills.
While the bills are getting paid, many are forgetting to pay themselves.
When it comes to finances, for me, it's hard. It's not a pretty story.
Regina Ross isn't alone.
I've gone through a horrible divorce, losing half of my income.
Ross is now on the road to recovery. That's thanks to the classes she takes at the Money School.
This is free financial education for men and women, people of all ages. We see more and more women wanting to take charge of their money, wanting to know where their money's going, wanting to make sure they tell the money where to go.
Ronnie Cohen is the executive director of the Delaware Financial Literacy Institute, home of the Money School.
We have about 700 classes a year across the state. Most are in Newcastle County, and we do have a lot in Barron, Middletown, so people from Kent can attend.
DFLI offers year-round programs that help Delawareans learn how to manage and make their money work for them.
What I learned at the Money School was it gave me guidance, it gave me direction, it steered me in the right place to be and where to go, and it also made me feel like I was not alone, because they were there for me.
The classes are designed to give students a basic understanding of financial issues like debt, savings, and investments. Rod Hausman is one of the instructors at the Money School.
I teach several. One is 21 ways to find money to invest. Strategies to get out of debt is a big one. Building a secure financial future, principles of equities investing, and college costs a lot, ways to save now. So, and I teach them all through the state of Delaware, and businesses and churches and even groups.
Hausman has come up with an answer to a question he gets often.
Never too late. A friend of mine always says half a sandwich is better than no sandwich at all. So it's never too late to save. And I hear that in a lot of my classes. Oh, where were you 20, 30 years from now? Well, I'm here right now. Let's start now.
For the most part, all of our teachers are volunteers, and they have to have at least 2 years experience in their field. They're not allowed to sell. They're not allowed to collect people's names and addresses.
Cohen's interest in equipping people with the tools to understand their finances peaked during her years as a school teacher.
We have a great program called Bank at School, and that's my favorite. That started when I was a teacher. We have banks that open once a week for children to deposit money in 80 schools across the state.
Cohen is a strong proponent of instilling good financial habits early.
To teach children to put a little bit of money aside, save early, save often, is a critical skill.
Another critical skill Cohen wants people to learn: how to be successful entrepreneurs.
Here at the Delaware Financial Literacy Institute, I am the director of the Center for Business Growth. This is a relatively new initiative that Ms. Ronnie Cohen, the director, has started.
Audrey Scott Henson shows students how to take their business idea from concept to reality.
We start the businesses and we take them from the beginning, from idea to actual business being running properly and effectively. So when they launch, they're actually able to have a profitable business.
The folks at the Money School say whether it's starting a business, paying off debt, saving for college or retirement, the key is setting a goal and doing the research to obtain it. Oh, and back to that question about why are you working?
You're working because you want to retire.
Houseman says you should know your FIN, that's your financial independence number. To learn more about how to find your FIN and all the other classes at the Money School, log on to dfli.org.
First Person this week is coming to you from Dover, Delaware. We're on the campus of Wesley College, and we're joined by Wesley head football coach Mike Drass. Coach, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So just off the top, kind of tell us expectations for this year, what you expect out of the team this year.
Well, I tell you, it's the first year we're in a new conference. We're in the New Jersey Athletic Conference this year, and in recent years we've been independent, so our goal has been to win a national title. So our focus has changed. Our goal now is to win the New Jersey Athletic Conference.
How does that change the way you prep now here in preseason and in training? Does it change the way you approach games?
It changes the way you approach games because conference games mean so much more. You know, now, I mean, last year every game meant a lot because you didn't have room for error. You had to win. Now that same approach has to be taken to a conference game. You can't make a mistake during a conference week. You have to win that game.
You've been here more than 20 years.
26.
26
They
years.
can't get rid of me.
So you've had tremendous success here, really, coming up on the big number 200 in wins. What's been the secrets to that consistent success?
Well, I'd say this: we get tremendous support from Wesley College. I think, you know, just like in real estate, location, location, location. With great football here in Delaware, that Maryland, that DC, Baltimore corridor, South Jersey, Southeastern PA, it's just great football all over us. And we recruit hard to bring the best players in here. I have a great staff. Chip Knapp has been with me for 26 years. Steve Asanasi here yelling in the background. You know, a former St. Elizabeth product in Northern Delaware, played for us, been coaching with me for 15 years. Our staff has stayed together, and we've worked hard together to have something that we think is special for our players.
And I guess bringing in those players, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier, some of them come in a little bit greener than maybe they used to come into college, but whipping them into shape as we're seeing here today.
You can tell with my voice right now. Yesterday was not a fun day for people. We're going through a walkthrough right here, and we'll be back out here at 3:30 getting after them. We got to be ready to play. You know, you can't accept anything but your best. And as much talent as we have, we're not physically or mentally ready to play yet. So the coaches got challenges on their hands to prepare this team to win.
So we talked about your success over the 26 years you've been here. Do you ever feel that, in spite of all that success, even on a national stage, competing for national wins, that Wesley football kind of gets overshadowed sometimes by the bigger brothers up at UD or Del State even?
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you. I know the coaches at Del State. They're a good guy. Well, there's a new staff there. Jeff Braxton, who's my new O-line coach there. I never felt that way. The guys at Delaware are great. Coach Brock's a great guy. Tim Weaver, Brian Bassard are friends of mine. I don't feel that way. I mean, we're all different level, you know, different levels of competition.
And with the success that you've had, I imagine that the phone has rung a couple of times to give you opportunities to move on up, but you're here dedicated to Wesley football.
Well, you know, I love my job. I love Wesley College, and you know, I've made a commitment, you know, to Wesley. You know, and you know, I believe in this place. You know, I believe in this college. I believe in these guys. I want to be a coach that's involved in my players' lives. I want to be somebody that they can look at and know that they can count on. And I've had some friends coach at higher levels, and it really becomes more just about football. And I love coaching football, don't get me wrong. I'll always be a position coach and coordinate, but I want to be a guy that that matters in their lives, you know, and I think on this level you can do that, and you can have those relationships and work with people and have them grow and mature in front of your eyes.
And we definitely see we hear the passion in your voice, or that was in your voice, I guess.
You weren't here yesterday.
Terrific. Well, Wesley opens their season September 12th at Western Maryland, and then you're here opening against Christopher Newport September 19th. All this just getting ready for those openings.
Yeah, the 12th is at Frostburg in Western Maryland. Yeah, and that's what we're focused on right now.
Well, good luck, and hope the winning ways continue here at Wesley.
Hey, we really appreciate having you guys here. It's been a lot of fun.
He is Coach Mike Drass, head football coach here at Wesley College in Dover. From 1979 to 2001, E. Jean Lanyon was Delaware's Poet Laureate. She's often referred to as the People's Poet. E. Jean is also an accomplished painter and was on the front lines of the arts movement in Wilmington in the 70s. Her art and influence were on display in galleries as well as the arts magazine Dream Streets. She has a lasting legacy and is our first experience.
I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil. The only way my grandmother could keep track of me was to give me a little stub of a pencil and some scraps of paper. And then she knew I was all right for a while, till the paper ran out. You know? I made my living in architecture and engineering for 25 years. In between, I did everything it was possible to do to be an artist. I don't know why I'm just possessed or what would you call driven. If I don't paint and draw, I wither up, I get sick, I have to. Being engaged in a piece of work is probably the best part. It isn't the end product, it's the process that's so exciting because it's a challenge, because it's expression and skill. The people's poet is how other literary people think of me. And that's what they call me, because I'm not academic, and I like to be that way in my art. Clean and pure and simple and sincere. I've written poetry since I could write. To me, that's painting with words. Hope is the thing I found in the bottom of Pandora's box. She left that box to me when I was young and didn't know not to open it. I have been infected with it ever since. Adversity has never left me alone. Perhaps Pandora knew I would need hope to survive the life I had to live. The life that stuck its foot out and tripped me up at every turn. But hope kicked me in the pants every time. I could not quit, nor would hope fit back in the box. Eschaton writers were the ones who really started Dream Streets. We wanted to get our work to the public. In the 70s, it seemed that a lot of people woke up to need to do art, the need to get it out to the public. We were excited about it. We weren't thinking about we were a movement, but we wanted to be seen and heard, because that's what creativity is about. It's about communication. And for me, it was a way to communicate with other writers and other artists, you know, have a community. Artists are a little bit like the donkey with the carrot on a string in front of it, that there's always something more to reach for. There's always some new challenge to paint. I want the challenge of the natural world. And the rate we're going, there's not going to be much natural world left. And as an artist, you want to preserve that. You want to somehow interpret it and make it live for other people. The fact that somebody is responding to what I do and that I have a chance to share that, that's the important thing.
E. Jean is still working on commissioned pieces as well as teaching art in her studio. You can see some of her work on display at the Delaware Art Museum as part of their Dream Streets exhibit through September 27th. You can see a photo slideshow as well as see her read her poem from the Dream Streets magazine when you visit us on the web at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Next week on First, we focus on two historic events. Pope Francis is coming to Philadelphia. That has an impact here in Delaware. And we'll talk about that and review the things you should know for the papal visit.
And the other event is about the Civil War. On September 7th, WHYY-TV will show the landmark Ken Burns documentary series on the Civil War. Hard to believe it's been 25 years since that program first aired. Here's a clip.
1938, 75th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. President Roosevelt spoke to the remaining few Civil War veterans.
Veterans of the blue and the gray, on behalf of the people of the United States, I accept this monument in the spirit of brotherhood and peace.
Year after year, the nation remembered. In 1930, veterans of the Union Army marched in Cincinnati, Ohio. 4 years later, in New York City, they and the surviving veterans of the Confederacy were the last link with the terrible conflict that tore America apart from 1861 to 1865. The last Civil War veteran would die in 1959, and no longer would there be living memories of long ago battles, only history and legends.
That program's rebroadcast gives us a chance to look at Delaware during the time of the Civil War. This was an interesting place during those years. On next week's First, we'll look at activities in the state. We'll also talk to experts at Fort Delaware and the University of Delaware.
It was an interesting dichotomy out here because there were people in Delaware City that were very loyal to the federal government, and then there were those that were suspected of being copperheads. So being where Delaware was, straddling the Mason-Dixon line, often you didn't know who you could trust. And it brings up an interesting story of the ordinary citizens that were prisoners here. President Lincoln had suspended the writ of habeas corpus, so you could be locked up just for making a comment that was deemed to be seditious.
There were people who left the state and joined the Confederate armies. But the majority of Delawareans, although perhaps many were opposed to the administration on one level or another, this was a heavy Democratic state, nevertheless remained loyal to the United States.
Our look at Delaware in the Civil War will be on the next First. The Ken Burns series starts a week from Tuesday and runs for 4 nights. We were scheduled to have a state of play on this week's show, but there was a scheduling conflict.
So it gives us a chance to talk about a great event coming up the weekend of September 12th. It's the Brandywine Arts Festival. 200 artists will gather from 18 states. One of those artists is Thomas Burke. He creates amazing birdhouses. We featured his work on First in 2010. First contributor Emily Ryan narrates this story.
Now this will get a couple more coats of paint. I really like to goop on the paint now.
In the basement workshop of his Wilmington condo, Thomas F. Burke concentrates on his latest project, a replica of the Tatnall School in Greenville that's literally for the birds. Known as America's birdhouse designer and builder extraordinaire, Burke's honed his craft for the past 10 years.
I was building furniture, and an old girlfriend asked me to build a birdhouse for her mother.
Today, his well-nested custom creations can cost thousands of dollars.
People who do this who hire me to do their bird, they really like their houses. So, and they're usually creative, so they usually have fun houses, neat houses. So it's a fun project to always be working on. It's cool.
Having grown up in Chadds Ford, many of his handmade bird homes highlight local landmarks and paintings by Andrew Wyeth, like Christina's World.
Christina's World, which is one of my favorite birdhouses, was an old door I found alongside the road in Chadds Ford, which still has all the old paint on it.
Another is John Chadd's house.
That paint on that house, I tried to do it as close to Andrew Wyeth's painting as I could. And the fun part about it is he saw it one day and said to his wife, I can see my painting in that birdhouse. And that's the ultimate compliment.
Filmmaker George Lucas may soon be paying Burke compliments after seeing his work in Architectural Digest.
He and his girlfriend were sitting on a couch and they saw the article and he said, boy, that really looks cool.
So he's going to build a birdhouse version of Lucas's Skywalker Ranch.
It'll be a great undertaking. It's basically a white clapboard big house with a lot of turrets and details like that, which I can handle. It'll be fun to do. It's exciting. If he does like my birdhouses, that will be just about as cool as Andrew Wyeth liking them. I'm glad that Mr. Wyeth liked my birdhouses. I can always say that he liked them, and that was a fun thing.
The Brandywine Arts Festival will take place in Brandywine Park. You can go to brandywinearts.com for more. That is first for this week. We thank you for watching. For Shirley Min and Nichelle Polston, I'm Mark Eichman. Have a great week. We leave you with some more poetry from E. Jean. It's her ode to the 70s.
Hats off. Hats off. No more fedoras. No more tiny hats with veils. A restless wind is blowing. The 60s are gone. Flower children growing up. A time of energy is happening. A new indignation arises. Rebirth of the suffragettes into feminists. A time to make new voices heard. Hats off. Hats off. Women once silenced breaking through to recognition and rights. Artists, writers, scholars, leaders, these women, these uppity women, these wonderful uppity women leading the way to the future. Hats off. Toss off the old hats. Welcome lighted floors and disco dance. Hats off to the new, to our country's birthday, our bicentennial of freedom. Women opening paths, giving new strength to civil rights, to equal rights. Off with the old hats, on with the pantsuits. New voices in poetry and art, new songs to sing. Voices once silenced, now heard. Hats off, hats off.